Hello and welcome to the sixth annual Global Demand Awards. I'm joined today by Ian Carpenter and Aaron Martin, the showrunner, director, and creator of Slasher, a nominee for the most in-demand horror series of 2023. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Much appreciated.
Thanks for having us.
So, just to start off, Slasher is a horror anthology series. And in my previous life as an entertainment reporter, Fargo creator Noah Hawley once told me that he loved the freedom of the anthology structure, but admitted that it required more creative brain power. So, now I ask you two, what are the pros and cons to essentially starting from scratch each and every season?
I think the biggest pro for us is that it's a murder mystery, and to do a murder mystery, you need an endpoint, and this allows us every season to have a beginning, middle, and end to a mystery that hopefully the audience is figuring out along the way and trying to make their guesses, and you want to eventually have the answer to that, and that's that the anthology allows us to do that every season.
Yeah, that inventiveness. I mean, we're out now scouting right now. We don't have a green light, but in it, we're working in advance of that. It's exciting to just know you're shifting things up. And the only con I can think of is every now and then, and on a show where we kill most of the characters, this would happen even if it was serialized. You do sometimes grieve some of the characters where you're like, oh, I love this character. I love this person's performance. It's so much fun to write and they're done forever. That sucks.
I see how in serialized television, multi seasons, even if there is a dead character, you can always revisit them in some way. But how that's a little bit of a roadblock to what you guys do. But I'm sure, as you mentioned, the benefit is you can create new wonderful characters that you fall in love with all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And we have on occasion been able to bring back a character from a previous season, even though we'd killed them off. Joe's character in season 4.
Season, yeah, Joe was in season three, and I think we're both forgetting the character's name. And yeah, then we snuck them in season four, which was a sort of prequel timeline, and fans lost their minds. It was great, great fun.
And I think, forgetting a character's name or a single detail is a testament to the success of the show that you've been able to do so many different stories, so many different seasons thus far. Slasher has aired on Chiller, Super Channel, Netflix, Shudder. Do you feel the show has benefited from having so many different access points over the years? And I'm curious, now that you're, on the horror focused Shudder, an ecosystem dedicated to horror genre fans where they know exactly what to expect, what are the benefits of that type of home?
I mean, it's we've been lucky in that the like any good slasher like Jason or whatever, we never fully die. We keep getting we keep coming back for more. So that's been great. I know that Ian and I both love working with the people at Shudder just because they're such amazing fans of horror and they know more about horror than we do. So they're kind of like this amazing encyclopedia that we can access, and because of that, their notes on the show are also extremely amazing. We never get notes from them that we're like, oh, that doesn't make sense. It's like, oh, that makes it way better.
Yeah, I would just echo that. It's an amazing home. We're so lucky.
I mean, studio notes are infamous throughout the industry, but it's nice when you're dealing with people who are just as big of enthusiasts for the genre and the material as you. I'm sure it makes it a lot more of a productive collaborative experience.
Yeah, and sometimes their ideas take us into directions that we wouldn't have thought of, which is a rare thing when you have notes from anybody.
Yeah, and they've seen everything. So I felt like in season four there was an influence where one of the execs there, Sam, was talking about a movie we'd never seen, and then watching it sounded amazing. Watching it and going, "Oh my God, I wonder if we can do our version of that here." And it's incredible. Yeah,
I like that they
perfect.
can bring the references and inspiration into the
Mm-hmm.
whole creative mix.
Mm-hmm.
Now, horror is obviously a very strong bang for your buck genre. It has great track record at the box office. It's very well known at this point. That sort of communal scare experience is very singular. But audiences may still be surprised to know that demand for horror on TV still outstrips supply, according to Parrot Analytics data, suggesting that it's ripe for more investment industry wide. How would you explain the continued appeal of the genre on the small screen, which is typically more of an isolated viewing experience for audiences?
Hmm.
That's
Ian?
I don't know. That's an interesting because the big screen, it makes so much sense that we ran back to those movies like post-COVID. I was just talking to people saying how much Barbarian was for a lot of us the first
Oh
movie
yeah.
back. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I wonder if I mean, I'm often watching horror with friends. Like, even if it is a small screen, you all get back together and recreate that theater experience. I don't know. Like, do you, Aaron? Like,
Yeah,
I think, I think there's something interesting with the TV of it where it takes horror to a different place, where, our show and other shows that are doing the same thing, in a lot of horror features, if a character dies, you might not care, right? They might be there, they might walk in, be a jackass for 5 minutes. You're like, oh, I hope this person gets it. They do, you feel good or whatever. Or you watch your character suffer at their hands and you hope they survive and take that person out. But I think on a TV show, you get into a completely different dynamic because you develop these incredible relationships. And ideally too, and I think that's something, Slasher does, is you start to peel away at the sort of infamy or grotesqueness of someone and go, oh, that's how they got like this. Oh, I actually care about them a bit. So there's a rich grieving experience, in a TV show. But man, what's pulling people to it there? I don't know.
I mean, I think also that the TV show aspect, it by our show is as much of a soap and as much of a mystery series as it is a horror series.
Mhm.
And those things are not things that you can necessarily get when you have a 90-minute play time on
Right.
a movie screen.
Mhm.
I think that makes sense from a personal viewing standpoint too, because in movies, particularly horror movies, I do like to be the arrogant guy who goes, "Oh, I bet that guy gets killed in 5 minutes." With the TV, I like trying to predict who maybe is the murderer within your slasher stories, but there's so many twists and turns, so many different changing opinions throughout the whole course of the show. I can see how it's a more involved process from my point of view, at least as one viewer.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I think so.
Mhm.
I'm curious, getting to kind of more of the logistics. How do you combine episodic and seasonal themes with the manner in which characters are so creatively and artfully dispatched and disposed of in your show? Because you've said in previous interviews that there's a tight relationship between those two elements. And you've also said you're very conscious and aware of striving for inventive kills so it doesn't become stale and repetitive.
Well, I mean, I think the first thing that Ian and I do when we talk about a new season is we usually sit there and go, what's bugging us in the world right now? Like what's getting under our skin? And so that is the basis that we start thematically before we even think about who the killer is or how we're going to, disgustingly murder our characters. And so you've got that like that core there right from the get-go, and then that core influences every other decision we make throughout the season.
And I think also horror is about, being obvious here, but is about justice, right? Like there's a real sense of like agreeing and disagreeing with those kind of moments. And so there's something extra juicy about giving someone a poetically just end or a poetically unjust one that, motivates other things there. So that can give you just great ideas. And then you just start to get into a twisted headspace, which sometimes we get shockingly comfortable with out in public, and you realize, you look around, you're like, oh man, people, I don't know what people think we're planning on doing if we're in a cafe or something like that.
Well, because
Yeah.
we also like to one up each other. I mean, there's that aspect to it as
Yes.
well. We're
Yes.
trying to gross each other out, and also the people, everybody in the team. We try to we know that we're excited when we have an idea we want to pitch to, for example, Paige, who's our contact at Shaftesbury, because she's one of the producers on the show. Because we know that we'll get a reaction from her, and it will be either "Oh, that's disgusting," or she'll be like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah. Yeah.
I have not, unfortunately, been in charge of my own horror TV show, but I can imagine A, being able to explore all the things that bother me in the world, and then B, being able to dole out some horror tinged justice to bad characters is highly therapeutic, highly cathartic for you guys in a way.
Yeah, I mean, the reason that I wrote Slasher's pilot on spec because I just come out of a show that I really did not enjoy working on. And in that show, it was a medical show. So I was doing all these disgusting operations and I just basically undid them. So if I was putting like some of my characters were having limbs reattached and then I just chopped them up and put them into Slasher's pilot. It was
That's
cathartic.
yeah, an amazing creative process right there. So, Aaron, you are a former showrunner of Degrassi: The Next Generation, and Ian, you have a history in theater. I am curious, what lessons did you guys learn from a teen drama and from the stage that translates to horror anthology? You know, at first glance, they don't seem to have much in common, though I know character, story, and that chamber piece structure are all relevant throughout.
I mean, Degrassi, if you look at if you look what those characters go through, in many ways it is a horror show. I mean, they get every horrible possible thing happens to them at some point. So that is definitely an influence. But the really big influence that for me that came to this was the soapiness of Degrassi and the character building of Degrassi that it was kind of what I've done with everything since I've worked on that show. And that was like I finished that show 20 years ago. It's crazy. So that for me is has translated really well into horror.
And I think the stage, I mean, I was always really interested in what scared us or made us uncomfortable on stage. Like being scared in theater is a crazy experience because it's there. And I think there's something about, especially too, I used to direct theater as well. There's something about trusting tension, stillness, small things, how much that can make an audience uncomfortable. And also too, I mean, I loved as a writer director in theater, I loved sitting in the audience and people not knowing I had done the project and having an audience all around me. You got this like live feedback, that really sort of taught you a lot about, what works. Yeah.
Kind of the best version of Twitter, the ideal version of Twitter, distilled down into that one experience, that live reaction, that live feedback from an audience.
Oh, yes. Now I understand you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. People, I remember people talking to me and going like, saying crazy things to me and having no idea that I know everything that's about to happen. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's cool.
Now, Slasher is a native Canadian series, and when looking at the top 10 most in-demand non-US TV series by platform in the first half of 2023 across the 8 major premium streaming services, Canada was actually the third most represented country. I'm curious, what is it about Canadian entertainment do you feel has allowed it to travel so well and grow in prominence?
Well, I mean, I don't think it hurts that when our characters talk, except for maybe a few words, we sound similar to Americans. So I think there's
Probably doesn't hurt, yeah.
yeah, so it's probably easier for American audiences to as an access entry point. I think we just have a vibrant industry of people who are just as committed in making really good shows as anybody is. And we have had at least really great government support so that even though we don't have big studios that are backing our shows, we've got the enough of a budget so that we can create shows that can compete internationally.
There's something to, and I don't know if this is like I think I don't know if I trust myself as a Canadian, like, what I project onto what our identity is. But my sense is there's a little more of a community focus. Not always, we're not perfect. There's a little more awareness of people that are not like you. And so to me, it makes sense that shows like Schitt's Creek and sort of come from Canada. They could come from other places too, but I understand
Yeah.
why that comes from here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And working on Degrassi, like we were doing stuff that no American would ever touch at the
Yeah.
time. I mean, Euphoria now is doing stuff we would never have touched. Degrassi, but at the time, it's that kind of Canadian sensibility where we're not quite as there's not the same kind of morality in Canada, for lack of a better word. We're not driven by religion as much. There's like, you don't have to worry about offending um, people.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, growing up of Degrassi, I always noted, even at a young age, how different it was from kind of comparable sitcoms, maybe like A Boy Meets World, something like that. Shows that I really enjoyed, but were perhaps still a bit more sanitized than Degrassi, which had a willingness to go there, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, that was our catchphrase.
All right, well,
And
mission accomplished on that
Slasher
front.
Slasher goes there too. We go there with
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of knives and augers and acid toilets,
No one is questioning if slasher goes there. That is firmly established. That is certainly one of the most successful elements, at least from my point of view as a fan. And the show arrives at a time when the slasher subgenre seems to be enjoying a cultural resurgence. What do you think are the defining criteria that determine the cyclical ebbs and flows of subgenres such as these, and that have reestablished slashers as such a cool in-demand genre?
Oh, I don't know. That's a big one.
That's a
I'm throwing
tricky.
some tough ones at you guys.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting why, like,
I don't know. Is this something to do with maybe how everybody loves these murder shows, like these murder documentary shows? And then now you can, for slashers, you get to kind of take that and make it even more terrifying.
I think that
yeah,
does have something to do with it.
I mean, I wonder too, like, is it like to go back to your, ideal version of Twitter thing? Is it, is there something about social media that's feeding this where we're just like, we're all or can be kind of provoked, and there's also some, venom that starts flying. And so is there a way in which this becomes a bit of a sort of crucible for making that stuff, visceral and real? I don't know. I'd be guessing, but
I think these are good theories. And I think kind of with the fragmentation of entertainment, we are missing that monoculture. And sometimes things as instantly and intentionally jarring as murder mysteries and slashers and horrors can be, that helps cut through the clutter more than certain other genres, other voices within the pop culture sphere.
mm, mm.
To my untrained eye.
Yeah.
It's a very good idea for sure.
Now, seasons of Slasher have premiered in March, October, May, August, and April. Was that determined by production logistics, or was that a conscious decision that speaks to our kind of anytime entertainment landscape where certain genre efforts don't necessarily need to be tied to a specific seasonal event like Halloween?
I mean, I know that Shudder definitely takes that into consideration when they program their very many series and movies they have. For us, a lot of it comes down to production realities and that we shoot all 8 episodes at once, so it's like a giant movie. And that means that it just makes it's not like you can shoot it and then air it and then keep shooting it. You have to shoot the whole thing and then you have to post the whole thing and get it completely ready before you can put it on online or on the air. So that definitely determines when our show is available to be broadcast.
And I'm assuming shooting all 8 episodes at once means you guys aren't sleeping for the duration of that entire time.
I'm sleeping, but Ian's not.
I'm not sleeping, and our director Adam McDonald, he's sleeping even less. Yeah, it kicks everyone's butts, and the actors, I mean, juggling, and I look at their notes on their scripts, juggling. If we're shooting all these scenes in one location, someone going like, "Oh, this is episode 7. This is what's happened to me. This is episode 5. Oh, this is 4. I'm still relaxed. I can breathe like a normal person." Like, it's all like, and that's all in a day. Like,
Yeah,
it's so
just to
tricky.
clarify, like Ian is the showrunner now. Like I he took over in season 3 because I had a different show that was on Netflix. And so Ian is the one who, along with the great title, gets to have little sleep while I just do whatever I want.
So I think,
But
Aaron, you might have cracked the code.
yeah, yeah, yes, yeah.
Well, it seems like it's a successful dynamic no matter what.
Mhm.
Is there anything that you're up for teasing regarding future slasher seasons? Any themes, time periods, or inspirations you're particularly excited to draw from that you're, of course, allowed to talk about?
Hmm. I mean, I know that this isn't future, but right when I created the show, one of the things I wanted to do always was a period slasher, which we got to do last season, which
Yeah.
was very exciting. I don't know. For me, there's some because I grew up as a teenager in the 80s, and there's some definite like um looks and feels from that era that I'd love to capture in future seasons.
I think
Yeah,
we're ripe for more 80s stories.
yeah. I don't think we could tease anything else
Okay, fair
other than
enough.
we're always working on, it
Slasher
might
in
be.
six Slasher in space, though. We'll do that
Yes,
one.
we do want to do that. Yeah.
You can meet what is it? Jason Voorhees, Halloween H20, something. It was something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah.
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 Michael Myers, yeah. Then lastly, I'll leave you guys with this. If you could have dinner with one fictional character, who would it be and why?
Like a fictional slasher character or anybody
It could
character.
be a fictional character across the universe of pop culture, literature, all that.
For me,
Hmm.
it'll be just because of what we're talking about. It'll be Hannibal Lecter, and
Pretty good.
I realize the risk involved in that, and I hope I'm a guest and not the meal. Yeah, that'd be exciting.
Yes. Although I would say Ian on the menu does sound inviting, but yeah, let's try to avoid that.
Oh
Much
yeah.
more of a gamey. Yeah.
Who would I'll just go with Hercule Poirot just because
Hmm.
as much of the show being a slasher show, it's also an Agatha Christie mystery for me. That was the two things that inspired me were the slasher movies I watched when I was a teenager and the books I continue to read as an adult.
Yeah, in 9 or 10 years of asking that question to everybody I interview, Hercule Poirot is one of the most popular answers for very understandable reasons. He's one of the greatest archetypes ever created.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time. We really appreciate it. Everyone watching, be sure to check out Slasher on Shudder, and we are very excited for all that you have to come up in the 2024 and beyond.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much. Happy
Nice
2020.
talking.